Jake Morrison wiped the frost from his helmet visor and checked his watch. It was almost 6 in the evening, and the sun was setting over the frozen wasteland of Epsilon 7. He had been working on this ice planet for 3 years now, managing a mining crew that dug deep into the frozen ground looking for rare metals. The work was hard and the planet was cruel, but Jake needed the money and he was good at his job. He walked through the mining site, checking that all the equipment was properly stored for the night. His crew of 20 men had already gone back to the warm bunkers where they lived. Jake always made sure everyone was safe before he went back himself. That was just the kind of man he was. The wind was picking up. Jake looked at the sky and saw dark clouds moving fast toward them. His helmet computer suddenly started beeping with a loud alarm. He read the message on his screen and his heart sank. A massive ice storm was coming, and it was moving much faster than anyone had predicted. The temperature would drop to -100 degrees in less than 30 minutes. Anyone caught outside would freeze to death in minutes. Jake grabbed his radio and called his crew. "Everyone listen up. Get to the bunkers right now. This is not a drill. Move fast." He heard the responses coming back, confirming that everyone was already inside or running to safety. Jake did one last check of the area, making sure no one was left behind. He was about to head back when he heard something strange. It was a soft crying sound, like a baby whimpering. The wind was howling now, but Jake could still hear it. He knew he should run to the bunker. The storm would hit any second, but that sound bothered him. Something was out there, something alive, and it was scared. Jake turned toward the sound and started walking. His common sense told him this was stupid, but he could not ignore a cry for help. The sound led him to a pile of broken rocks near the edge of the mining site. Some kind of cave-in had happened here, creating a small opening between the fallen stones. Jake bent down and looked inside with his helmet light. What he saw made him freeze in shock. 6 small creatures huddled together in the tiny cave. They looked like wolf pups, but their fur was a strange color, shimmering blue and silver like metal in the light. Their eyes were huge and filled with fear. They stared at Jake and made soft crying sounds. The smallest one was shaking badly, and Jake could see ice forming on its fur. Jake had never seen animals like this on Epsilon 7. The planet was supposed to be empty of life. But here they were, 6 baby creatures freezing to death in front of him. He looked at his helmet display. The storm would hit in 4 minutes. The temperature was already dropping fast. He made his decision in seconds. Jake pulled out his emergency thermal blanket, the kind meant to wrap around injured people. He reached into the cave carefully, talking softly to the scared pups. "It's okay, little ones. I'm here to help." The pups tried to back away, but they were too cold and weak to move much. Jake gently scooped them up one by one, wrapping them all in the thermal blanket. They were surprisingly light, and their body temperature felt very cold, much colder than any Earth animal. But they were alive, and he intended to keep them that way. Jake tucked the bundle of pups inside his heavy jacket against his chest. He could feel them moving, their small bodies pressed against him for warmth. The smallest one, the one that had been shaking worst, snuggled right against his heart. Then Jake started running. The storm hit like a hammer. The wind speed jumped to over 200 kilometers per hour in seconds. Snow and ice filled the air so thick that Jake could not see anything. His helmet visor frosted over completely. He switched to his navigation computer, following the arrow on his screen that pointed toward the bunker. Every step was a battle. The wind tried to knock him down. The temperature dropped so fast his suit's heater could not keep up. Warning messages flashed on his screen. Suit power at 30%. Body temperature dropping. Frostbite risk high. Jake ignored them all and kept walking. Inside his jacket, the pups whimpered and squirmed. "Hang on, babies," Jake said through gritted teeth. Almost there. His legs felt like frozen wood. His fingers were numb. The bunker should be close, but Jake could not see it. His suit power dropped to 15%. Then 10%. The heater started to fail. Jake stumbled and almost fell. He caught himself and kept moving. He had to keep moving. Then through the white chaos of the storm, Jake saw a light. The bunker entrance. He pushed toward it with the last of his strength. His suit power hit 7%. His body temperature was dangerously low. Jake reached the door and slammed his fist against the emergency button. The door slid open. Warm air rushed out. Jake fell forward into the bunker and crashed to the floor. He heard people shouting. Hands grabbed him, pulling him inside. The door closed behind him, shutting out the screaming wind. Lisa Grant, his second-in-command, knelt beside him. "Jake, what were you thinking? You almost died out there." Jake's hands were shaking so hard he could barely move. "In my jacket," he managed to say. "Be careful." Lisa unzipped his jacket slowly. Her eyes went wide when she saw what was inside. The 6 pups tumbled out onto the floor, still wrapped in the thermal blanket. The whole crew gathered around, staring in amazement. "What are they?" someone asked. "I don't know," Jake said. His teeth were chattering. "Found them freezing. Couldn't leave them." The medical team wrapped Jake in heated blankets and checked his temperature. He had early-stage hypothermia. Another 5 minutes in that storm and he would have been dead. But Jake was not thinking about himself. He watched as his crew carefully picked up the pups and carried them to a warm corner of the bunker. Lisa brought the smallest pup to Jake. "This one won't let go of your shirt," she said with a smile. Jake took the tiny creature and held it close. It made a small chirping sound and licked his hand. Its strange blue-silver fur was starting to dry and it felt soft and warm now. The pup looked up at Jake with those huge, intelligent eyes, and he could have sworn it was saying thank you. The crew found some emergency food rations and tried to feed the pups. To everyone's surprise, the creatures ate the food eagerly. They seemed smart, responding to voices and making eye contact. They acted more like human children than wild animals. Outside, the storm raged with incredible fury. The wind shook the bunker walls. The crew settled in to wait it out, taking turns watching over the strange wolf pups. Jake sat wrapped in blankets with the smallest pup on his lap. It had fallen asleep, making soft snoring sounds. Lisa sat down next to him. "You're crazy, you know that? You risked your life for animals we've never even seen before." Jake shrugged. "They're just babies, Lisa. They needed help." The storm continued for 18 hours. During that long wait, the crew bonded with the 6 pups. They gave them water and food, made them a soft bed, and kept them warm. The creatures seemed grateful, cuddling with anyone who would hold them, but the smallest one always returned to Jake, refusing to sleep anywhere except next to him. When the storm finally ended, Jake planned to contact the colonial authorities about the animals. They would know what to do. But as dawn broke over the ice fields and the crew prepared to go back to work, something appeared in the sky that changed everything. Ships. Hundreds of them. No, thousands of them. The sky grew dark as an enormous fleet of alien vessels descended toward the colony. They were like nothing humans had ever built, with smooth flowing shapes that seemed almost alive, and they glowed with the same blue-silver color as the pups' fur. Every alarm in the facility started screaming. The crew stared up at the sky in shock and fear. Jake looked down at the small pup sleeping on his boot. His stomach felt cold. He had a terrible feeling that he had just saved something very, very important. And now someone had come looking for it. The defense system activated automatically. Red warning lights flashed throughout the bunker. A computer voice announced that weapons were targeting the incoming ships. Jake jumped up from his seat, nearly dropping the small pup. "No! Don't fire!" he shouted. He ran to the control panel and slammed his hand on the override button. The weapons powered down. Lisa stared at him. "Jake, what are you doing? There are thousands of alien ships up there." Jake looked at the 6 pups gathered around his feet. They were not scared. They were excited, making happy chirping sounds and wagging their tails. "I don't think they're here to attack us," he said quietly. "I think they're here for the pups." The ships arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the mining facility. They did not fire weapons. They did not make demands. They just waited, hovering silently in the sky. Their formation was so precise it looked like a computer had placed each ship exactly. Within an hour, the mining site was flooded with people. Commander Patricia Hayes arrived with every soldier stationed on Epsilon 7. Diplomats came from the main colony. Scientists brought scanning equipment. Everyone wanted to see the alien fleet that had appeared out of nowhere. Jake found himself in the middle of a hastily built command center, still wearing his work clothes. The 6 pups refused to leave him, clustering around his chair. The smallest one sat on his lap, calm and content. Every important person on the planet was there, and they all kept looking at Jake like he had the answers. He did not. Commander Hayes studied the ships on the monitor screens. They're not moving, not communicating, just sitting there. What do they want? As if answering her question, one ship broke away from the formation. It was massive, as big as a city block, but it moved with impossible grace. The ship descended slowly and landed on the ice field outside the facility. It made no sound when it touched down, just settled onto the frozen ground like a feather. Everyone held their breath. A door opened in the side of the ship, and a ramp extended down to the ice. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then they came out. Jake had never imagined creatures like this could exist. They walked on 4 legs like the pups, but they were huge, bigger than horses. Their fur rippled with colors that seemed to shift and change, flowing through shades of blue, silver, purple, and gold. They wore no clothes, but they carried themselves with such dignity that no one could mistake them for simple animals. These were intelligent beings. 7 of them walked down the ramp. The one in front was clearly very old. Its fur was shot through with silver and gold threads. It moved slowly, but every step showed strength and authority. The other 6 flanked it like guards or advisors. The aliens approached the human command center, stopping about 20 meters away. Jake could see their eyes now. They were large and deep, filled with intelligence and emotion. The old one in front looked directly at Commander Hayes, then at Jake, then at the pups. What happened next shocked everyone into silence. The old alien opened its mouth and spoke in perfect English. "I am Elder Cayenne of the Luminari people." The voice was deep and powerful, with a strange accent that made each word sound like music. "We have searched for our children for 3 of your planetary days. We detected their life signs in this structure. We have come to bring them home." Commander Hayes recovered first. "You speak our language?" "We have studied your species for some time," Elder Cyan replied. "When we learned our young were lost on a human world, we prepared for all possibilities, including communication." The 6 pups suddenly started yipping excitedly. They pulled away from Jake and ran toward Elder Cyan. The old alien's dignified expression broke. 6 more Luminari rushed forward from the ship, their calm composure completely gone. They met the pups halfway across the ice. Jake watched the reunion and felt his throat tighten. There was no mistaking what he was seeing. Parents finding their lost children. The adult Luminari bent down and nuzzled the pups, making sounds of joy and relief. The pups jumped and played, licking faces and wagging tails. One of the adults, a female with deep blue fur, picked up the smallest pup gently in her mouth and held it close. The reunion lasted several minutes. Elder Cayenne watched with eyes that glistened with tears. Finally, the old Luminari turned back to the humans. "These pups are the children of our 6 clan leaders. They are royalty among our people. They were on their first learning hunt when the storm caught them. We thought them lost. We brought our entire defensive fleet prepared to search every meter of this world." Elder Cyan paused. "We expected to find bodies. Instead, we find them warm, fed, and safe." The elder's gaze moved across the assembled humans and locked onto Jake. "The smallest one, my granddaughter, tells me it was you. You saved them." Jake stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. "I just found them freezing in the storm, sir. Elder, I mean your highness. I don't know what to call you." Elder Cyan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Elder is fine, Jake Morrison. And what you did was not simple. My granddaughter's body temperature was minutes from fatal shutdown. You gave her your own warmth. You nearly died to save children of a species you had never seen. Why?" Jake looked at the pups, now playing happily with their parents. They were babies. They were scared and cold. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Elder Cayenne said firmly. "Not anyone. Most beings care only for their own kind. Some care for allies. Very few risk their lives for complete strangers expecting nothing in return. You did this. The Luminari do not forget such debts." The elder took a step closer. "What do you want, Jake Morrison? Name anything within our power and it is yours. Technology, wealth, a world of your own. Ask and it will be given." The command center was absolutely silent. Every human stared at Jake. He could ask for anything. Alien technology that could make him rich beyond measure. Power, fame, anything. Jake looked at Elder Cyan, then at the pups playing on the ice. "I don't want anything, Elder. I'm just glad they're okay. They're good pups. Really smart. The little one, your granddaughter, she's got a lot of spirit." Elder Cyan stared at him for what felt like forever. Then slowly the old Luminari lowered its head in a bow. Every other Luminari immediately did the same. The gesture was so full of respect and honor that several humans gasped. "You are a strange species, humans," Elder Cyan said softly, "but perhaps a good one. We would know you better. With your permission, we would open communication between our peoples. Commander Hayes stepped forward quickly. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, we would be honored to speak with you, Elder Cyan. The elder nodded. I will send a delegation to remain on your world while we contact our government. This will take time.
Is this acceptable?
Very acceptable, Commander Hayes said. Elder Cyan looked at Jake again. I request that Jake Morrison be present for our discussions. He has earned the right to speak for humanity in this matter. Jake's eyes went wide. Wait, what? No, I'm just a foreman. I dig holes for a living. I'm not a diplomat. You saved our young, Elder Cyan said simply. That makes you worthy. You will be there, Jake Morrison. Before Jake could protest further, the smallest pup broke away from her mother and ran back to him. She jumped up, putting her small paws on his leg and made happy chirping sounds. Her mother, the deep blue luminary, walked over gracefully. My daughter has claimed you, she said in a voice like singing. She says you are Pack now. This is a great honor. Jake bent down and picked up the small pup. She licked his face and snuggled against his chest. She's a sweet kid, he said, scratching behind her ears. The blue luminary watched this with warm eyes. I am clan leader Azure Sky. This is my daughter Frost. I owe you her life. If you ever need anything, Jake Morrison, you need only ask. The resources of my entire clan are yours. I just need to know she's going to be okay, Jake said. Azure Sky made a pleased sound. She will be more than okay. She will grow strong and wise, and she will remember the human who saved her. Over the next 3 days, Epsilon 7 transformed completely. More humans arrived from Earth and the other colonies. Diplomats, scientists, military commanders, and politicians all descended on the small mining outpost. The Luminary maintained their fleet in orbit, but sent down a delegation of 20 to meet with the humans. Jake was pulled into every important meeting, much to his discomfort. Professional diplomats asked him questions about what he had said to Elder Cyan, analyzing his every word. Military officers wanted to know about Luminary capabilities. Scientists begged for information about their technology. Through it all, little Frost stayed close to Jake whenever her handlers allowed it. She was learning English at an incredible speed. Within 2 days, she could understand simple commands and questions. Her intelligence was frightening. She was only 2 years old in Luminary terms, but she acted more like a smart 10-year-old human child. On the 3rd night, Jake escaped from another boring diplomatic dinner and went to the observation deck. He needed to be alone for a while. But Frost found him, of course. She always did. She trotted over and sat next to him, looking up at the stars. Pretty, she said in her small voice. It was one of the first English words she had learned. Yeah, they are, Jake agreed. Frost looked at him with those huge eyes. You sad? Jake sighed. Just tired, little one. Lots of people wanting me to do things I don't understand. The message from Earth came through official channels 72 hours after the Luminary fleet arrived. Jake sat in the command center with Commander Hayes, Director Glenn Foster, who led the diplomatic team, and Elder Cyan. The holographic display showed the faces of 12 people from Earth's government, all looking serious and tired. The speaker of the United Earth Coalition, an older woman named Helen Brooks, addressed them directly. Elder Cyan, after much discussion, Earth accepts your invitation to begin preliminary talks with the Galactic Concordance. We understand this is not full membership, but a chance to learn and be evaluated. We accept these terms. Elder Cyan bowed its head respectfully. This is wisdom, Speaker Brooks. The path to full membership takes time, but the first step is often the most important. We are pleased. Helen Brooks looked at Jake. Mr. Morrison, Elder Cyan has requested that you be part of the human delegation that will visit the Luminary homeworld. This is highly unusual, given your lack of diplomatic experience. However, in recognition of your actions and the respect the Luminary have shown you, the Coalition agrees. If you accept. Jake felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Me? Go to an alien planet? I'm not qualified for that. I wouldn't even know what to say. Director Foster, sitting next to him, spoke up. Jake, I know this is overwhelming, but Elder Cyan specifically asked for you. The Luminary trust you. That trust could be invaluable as we navigate these talks. But I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy. Jake protested. Elder Cyan made a thoughtful sound. That is precisely why you are valuable, Jake Morrison. Diplomats speak carefully, always calculating their words. You speak from the heart. The Concordance needs to see the real humans, not practiced performers. You represent that reality. Jake looked around the room. Everyone was watching him, waiting. He thought about refusing. This was too big, too important. He was just a guy who ran a mining crew. But then he felt a small weight on his foot. Frost had snuck into the meeting again and was sitting on his boot, looking up at him with trusting eyes. If I mess this up, I could ruin everything for Earth, Jake said quietly. Or you could open doors that diplomacy alone cannot, Helen Brooks said from the screen. We're asking you to try, Mr. Morrison. Not to be perfect, just to be yourself. Jake took a deep breath. Okay, I'll do it. But I want Lisa Grant, my second in command, to come too. She's smarter than me and keeps me from doing stupid things. Elder Cyan's eyes seemed to smile. This is acceptable. Anyone else? No, that's good. Jake paused. When do we leave? 3 days, Elder Cyan said. That gives you time to prepare. Director Foster will brief you on what to expect. But remember, Jake Morrison, we do not expect you to be something you are not. We expect you to be you. The next 3 days were chaos. Lisa could not believe she was going to an alien planet, and kept laughing nervously every time someone mentioned it. Director Foster gave Jake and Lisa a crash course in basic diplomatic protocol. Do not touch anyone without permission. Be respectful. Listen more than you talk. Do not make promises Earth cannot keep. Jake tried to absorb it all, but his head was spinning. He spent his free time with Frost, who was growing fast and learning more English every day. She could hold simple conversations now, though her grammar was still rough. You come to my world, she said happily one evening. I show you everything. The crystal forests, the singing lakes, the city of lights. I'm looking forward to it, Jake said honestly. Despite his nervousness, he was curious. How many humans got to visit an alien planet? Azure Sky came to see Jake the night before departure. The massive luminary had to duck to enter the small room Jake was using. You are nervous, she observed. Terrified, Jake admitted. What if I say something wrong? What if I accidentally insult someone? Azure Sky settled onto the floor. Let me tell you what will happen, Jake Morrison. You will go to Thurian, our homeworld. You will meet the other species of the Concordance. Some will like you, some will not. Some will think humans are too young and dangerous. And they will say this to your face. That's not making me feel better, Jake said. Good. You should be nervous. This is important. Azure Sky's eyes were kind. But here is what else will happen. You will speak honestly. You will show them what humanity is, not through prepared speeches, but through your actions. And some of them will see what we see. A species capable of great kindness. That is all you need to do. What if that's not enough? Then we will try again later, Azure Sky said simply. The Concordance has existed for thousands of years. We do not make quick decisions, but you have already done the hardest part. You made us notice you. You made us care. The rest will follow in time. Frost bounced into the room and jumped onto Jake's lap. Tomorrow we go home. You will love it, Jake, I promise. The next morning, Jake and Lisa boarded the luminary ship called Song of Ancient Paths. It was nothing like human spacecraft. The interior walls seemed to pulse gently, like they were alive. The floors adjusted to each person's weight and preference. Jake's section felt firm and stable, while Lisa's seemed to have more cushion. The ship could hold thousands, but only a small delegation was making this trip. 50 humans, including diplomats, scientists, and military observers. And Jake and Lisa, who felt completely out of place among all these important people. The journey to Thurian would take 2 weeks. Elder Cyan assured them the ship traveled faster than light, but it still took time to cross the vast distances between stars. Jake spent the time learning everything he could about the luminary and the other concordant species. Director Foster took him and Lisa under her wing. Listen, you two. When we get there, there will be a gathering, representatives from all 47 species. They will ask questions. They will test us. Some will try to find reasons to reject humanity. Why would they do that? Lisa asked. Because accepting a new species is risky, Foster explained. Humans have a violent history. We fight among ourselves. We damage our environment. From their perspective, we are dangerous children playing with weapons we barely understand. So what do we tell them? Jake asked. The truth, Foster said. We do not hide our flaws. We acknowledge them. But we also show our potential, our curiosity, our capacity for growth, and most importantly, our capacity for compassion. That is where you come in, Jake. The approach to Thurian was breathtaking. The planet appeared on the viewing screen like a jewel floating in space. Blue forests covered the continents, silver oceans reflected the sun, and cities made of crystal rose from the mountains. Jake had never seen anything so beautiful. Song of ancient paths descended smoothly through the atmosphere. Jake watched through the window as they flew over cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Luminari moved through streets and parks, living in harmony with the natural world. Everything was clean, beautiful, and peaceful. They landed at what Elder Cyan called the Grand Circle. It was an enormous amphitheater carved from a mountain, big enough to hold thousands. As Jake stepped off the ship, he felt the weight of what was about to happen. This was it, the moment that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. The Grand Circle was already filled with beings from across the stars. Jake saw creatures he could not have imagined in his wildest dreams, beings made of living crystal that glowed with inner light, massive insect-like creatures with dozens of legs and complex, intelligent eyes, floating jellyfish-like beings that rippled through the air, reptilian species covered in scales that changed color, aquatic creatures in mobile water tanks, and dozens of others that defied easy description. All of them turned to watch as the human delegation entered. Jake felt like he was being examined under a microscope. He wanted to run back to the ship, but Frost trotted beside him, her presence somehow comforting. If a 2-year-old pup could be brave, so could he. Elder Cyan led them to the center of the circle. The old luminary's voice carried across the vast space without any amplification. Honored members of the Concordance, I present humanity, a young species, new to the stars, but worthy of our attention. I recommend we begin formal evaluation for membership. A being made of pure crystal spoke, its voice like singing glass. Elder Cyan, we respect your judgment, but we must ask the difficult questions. Humanity has a history of violence. They war among themselves. They damage their worlds. They create weapons of terrible power. What makes them different from the dozens of other young species we have rejected? Other voices joined in. A reptilian being questioned human stability. An insect-like creature cited statistics on human conflicts. One by one, species raised objections. Jake listened to them list all of humanity's failures and felt his heart sink. Everything they said was true. Humans had done terrible things. We're still doing terrible things. Director Foster tried to answer, speaking about human progress and potential. But Jake could see it was not working. The assembled species had already made up their minds. They saw humans as dangerous and unready. Then Elder Cyan did something unexpected. The old luminary activated a holographic display in the center of the circle. It showed footage from Jake's helmet camera, the recording of his rescue of the pups. The entire assembly watched as Jake struggled through the killing storm, his suit failing, his body temperature dropping critically low. They saw him. Azure Sky stood up from where she had been sitting with the other clan leaders. She walked across the circle floor to where Jake stood frozen, his face pale from the realization of what he had just done. Frost bounded beside her mother, tail wagging proudly. The small pup jumped up and put her paws on Jake's chest, licking his face. The luminary recognized truth speech, Azure Sky announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the Grand Circle. We hear the words of Jake Morrison and find them genuine. He speaks not as a trained diplomat, but as a good being. This is what we sought to understand about humanity. We vote to accept humans into preliminary concordance status. The crystal being that had questioned humanity earlier chimed again, the sound thoughtful and complex. The Viridian Collective has watched the human recordings with interest. We see both the capacity for harm and the capacity for great good. We choose to believe in potential. The words of Jake Morrison move us. We support the Luminary vote. A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed with colors. A translator voice spoke its words. The Erlon Drift finds courage in honesty. The human admits their flaws rather than hiding them. This shows wisdom beyond their years. We vote in favor. One by one, species began to speak. Not all voted yes. Some abstained, wanting more time to observe. A few voted no, citing human violence and environmental damage as too great a risk. But slowly, the yes votes outnumbered the no votes. An insect-like being with compound eyes and delicate antennae spoke. The Crixian hive has concerns. Humans are impulsive, emotional. They make quick decisions that may harm others. However, we have reviewed the evidence. Jake Morrison's rescue was not impulsive. He calculated the risks and chose to act anyway. This shows both heart and mind working together. We vote yes with conditions. A massive reptilian creature, its scales shimmering green and gold, rose on its powerful legs. The Saurian Dominion has long memories. We remember too many young species who promised peace and brought war. But we also remember our own youth when we were savage and cruel. The elder races gave us a chance. We grew, we learned. Perhaps humans deserve the same opportunity. We vote yes. After 3 hours of discussion and voting, the final count was announced by a neutral species that served as the Concordance's record keepers. 32 species voted yes. 8 voted no. 7 abstained. Humanity had been granted probationary membership in the Galactic Concordance. The conditions were strict. Humans would be monitored closely. They could not expand their territory without approval. They had to meet specific milestones in reducing conflicts and environmental damage. They would receive limited technology transfers, carefully selected to help but not destabilize their civilization. If they failed to meet these conditions within 50 years, their membership would be revoked. But they were in. Earth was now part of a galactic community. Director Foster hugged Jake so hard his ribs hurt. "That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever witnessed," she said, tears in her eyes. "Probably both. But it worked. You gave them truth and they responded to it." Lisa grabbed Jake next, laughing and crying at the same time. "Boss, you just talked humanity into space. Do you realize that? You just changed history." Jake felt numb. He had just wanted to help some scared baby animals. Now his species was joining an alliance of 47 alien races. It was too much to process. He needed air. He needed to think. He excused himself from the celebration and found a balcony overlooking the Luminary city. The sun was setting, painting the crystal buildings in shades of gold and purple. It was beautiful and alien and overwhelming. Frost found him there, of course. She always did. The small pup curled up at his feet, content to just be near him. Elder Cayenne appeared a few minutes later, moving silently despite its size. "You are troubled, Jake Morrison." Jake nodded slowly. "I told them we would get better. What if we don't? What if we're still fighting wars and hurting each other 50 years from now? I made a promise I might not be able to keep." Elder Cyan settled beside him, looking out at the city. "Do you know how old I am, Jake Morrison?" "No, Elder. 347 of your years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have watched species destroy themselves and others flourish beyond imagination. And do you know what I have learned? What? That perfection is an illusion. Every species in the Concordance still struggles with their flaws. The Viridian Collective, those crystal beings who supported you today, fought a terrible civil war 2,000 years ago. Millions died. They are still healing from it. The Saurians nearly drove themselves extinct through greed and conquest before they learned wisdom. Even the Luminary have dark chapters in our history. Elder Cayenne turned to look at Jake. The Concordance is not a gathering of perfect beings. It is a collection of those who try, who look at their mistakes and seek to do better. You have convinced 47 species that humanity is willing to try. Now you must prove it, not by becoming perfect, but by showing genuine effort to grow. That's still a lot of pressure, Jake said quietly. Yes, but you will not carry it alone. Your entire species will work toward this goal now, and we will help you. That is what the Concordance does. We support each other. Frost yawned and made a small chirping sound. Elder Cyan chuckled. My granddaughter is tired. She has had an exciting day watching her human friend speak to the galaxy. I'm her human friend? Jake asked, scratching Frost's ears. You are more than that. You are Pack. This is a bond that lasts a lifetime for Luminari. Frost will grow up remembering the human who saved her life, and when she is grown, she will work to maintain the friendship between our species, as will her children and their children. One act of kindness, Jake Morrison, can echo through generations. Jake looked down at the small pup sleeping on his feet. She looked so peaceful, so trusting. I just wanted to help, he said softly. I know. That is why it mattered. The celebration continued for 3 days. Human diplomats met with representatives from every concordant species. Scientists exchanged information. Military commanders discussed security arrangements. Trade agreements were drafted. Cultural exchanges planned. It was the beginning of something enormous, and everyone knew it. Jake attended when required, but mostly he stayed quiet and let the professionals do their work. He spent his free time with Frost, who was delighted to show him her world. She took him to the crystal forests, where trees grew from pure gemstone and sang in the wind. She showed him the singing lakes, where the water itself made music. She brought him to the City of Lights, where millions of Luminari lived in harmony with nature. Everywhere they went, Luminari stopped to stare. Word had spread about the human who saved the royal pups. Some approached Jake to thank him. Others bowed respectfully. Parents brought their own children to meet him, teaching them about the value of compassion. It was uncomfortable and humbling. Jake kept trying to explain he was not a hero, just a guy who did what anyone should do, but the Luminari did not see it that way. To them, he represented the best of what humanity could be. On the 6th day, Azure Sky invited Jake to meet with the 6 clan leaders privately. They gathered in a beautiful garden filled with flowers that glowed softly in the twilight. The 6 adult Luminari sat in a circle, their rescued pups playing nearby. Jake Morrison, Azure Sky began, we 6 owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid. You saved our children at risk to your own life. We wish to give you something, but we know you will refuse material wealth. I don't need anything, Jake said quickly. A male Luminari with silver-white fur smiled. We know. That is why we offer something different. We offer friendship. Not just to you, but to your species. The 6 clans control much of Luminari industry, trade, and defense. We pledge to support humanity's growth within the Concordance. We will be your advocates, your teachers, and your allies. Another clan leader, her fur deep purple, added, we will also assign cultural ambassadors to Earth. Young Luminari who will live among humans, learning your ways and teaching ours. This exchange of understanding will benefit both our peoples. And, Azure Sky said with warmth in her voice, when Frost is old enough, she has asked to be one of these ambassadors. She wishes to live on Earth for a time, to know the world of the human who saved her. Frost bounded over and jumped onto Jake's lap. I want to see your world, Jake. You showed me kindness. I want to show kindness to your people. Jake felt his eyes burn. These powerful beings were offering their support not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because of one simple choice he had made in a storm. I don't know what to say. Say yes, the silver-white Luminari said simply. Let us be friends. Yes, Jake said. Thank you. All of you. The human delegation departed Thurian 2 days later. Jake stood at the ship's window, watching the beautiful planet grow smaller. Frost stood with him, unusually quiet. I will miss you, she said softly. But I will see you again. I promise. I'll miss you too, little one. Grow up strong and wise. Frost licked his hand. I will make you proud. I will be a good ambassador. I will help our peoples be friends forever. Jake hugged the small pup, careful not to squeeze too hard. You already make me proud. The journey back to Epsilon 7 took 2 weeks. Jake spent the time processing everything that had happened. He had left as a simple 3 months passed since Jake Morrison returned to Epsilon 7, and Earth was changing in ways no one could have imagined. The first technology transfers from the Concordance arrived, carefully selected to help humanity without overwhelming them. Clean energy systems that could replace fossil fuels, medical advances that could cure diseases that had plagued humans for centuries, agricultural techniques that could feed billions without harming the environment. But the greatest change was not in technology. It was in perspective. Humans now knew they were not alone in the universe. They had neighbors, teachers, and friends among the stars. And they had responsibilities. The whole world was watching to see if humanity could meet the conditions the Concordance Headset Jake watched the news. Reports from his small quarters on Epsilon 7. Global. Conflicts were decreasing as nations realized they had to present a united front to the galaxy. Environmental programs received massive funding as governments rushed to meet concordant standards. International cooperation increased as humanity worked together toward common goals. It was not perfect. There were still wars, still poverty, still injustice, but the trend was moving in the right direction. People were trying, and that was what mattered. The mining colony had become one of the most important sites in human space. It was the place where first contact had truly happened, where a human had saved luminary lives and opened the path to the stars. The small outpost now hosted a permanent concordance embassy, with representatives from a dozen species living and working alongside humans. Jake's crew had expanded significantly. 3 young luminari worked with them full-time, learning human construction methods while teaching their own techniques. There was also a Viridian named Crystal Song, a being made of living gemstone who could analyze rock formations with incredible precision, and a Crixian named Click Whir, whose insect-like form and multiple limbs made her surprisingly good at operating machinery. Lisa had adapted quickly to managing this diverse crew. "Never thought I'd be giving safety briefings to aliens," she joked one morning. But here we are. Jake smiled as he watched Clickwar operate an excavator with 4 of her 6 limbs simultaneously, accomplishing in minutes what took humans an hour. They're good workers. Fast learners, too. "That luminary kid, the one with the blue fur, he asked me yesterday if humans really eat meat from dead animals," Lisa said. I had to explain that yes, we do, and no, we don't think it's weird. Cultural exchange is going to take some getting used to. That evening, Jake received a message that made his heart race. It was from Azure Sky. Frost had completed her basic training and had been approved as a cultural ambassador. She would be coming to Earth in 2 weeks, and she wanted to be stationed at Epsilon 7 to work with Jake. Jake immediately called Elder Cyan to confirm. The old luminary's face appeared on his communication screen, looking pleased. "My granddaughter has grown much in these months, Jake Morrison. She speaks 5 languages now, including fluent English. She has studied human culture and history extensively, and she has not stopped talking about you. I'm honored that she wants to come here," Jake said. "But is she ready? She's still young." "She is young, yes. But she has the protection of her mother's entire clan. And she has you. We trust you to guide her, Jake Morrison. You saved her life. We know you will protect her still." 2 weeks later, a luminary ship landed at Epsilon 7 and Frost emerged. She was bigger now, almost the size of a large dog, and her blue-silver fur gleamed beautifully. But her eyes were the same, full of intelligence and warmth. When she saw Jake, she ran to him and jumped up, putting her paws on his chest just like when she was tiny. "Jake, I missed you so much." Her English was perfect now, with barely a trace of accent. Jake scratched behind her ears, amazed at how much she had grown. "I missed you too, Frost. Welcome to your new home." Frost looked around the mining colony with excitement. "This is where you saved me. This is where everything began. I am honored to serve here." Over the following weeks, Frost became a beloved member of the Epsilon 7 community. She worked alongside the human crew, learning their routines and sharing stories of luminary culture. She was curious about everything, asking endless questions about human food, entertainment, relationships, and beliefs. One evening, she sat with Jake in the observation deck, watching the ice fields shimmer under the starlight. "Jake, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did you really save us that day? And please tell me the deep truth, not the simple answer you give others." Jake thought about it carefully. "I heard you crying, and in that moment, I didn't think about species or politics or consequences. I just heard a baby who was scared and cold. My instinct was to help. I think most humans have that instinct. We see suffering and we want to stop it." Frost was quiet for a moment. "Not all species are like this. Some would have left us to die. Some would have saved us only to use us as bargaining tools. Grandfather says this is why humanity is special. You help because it is right, not because it benefits you. Humans aren't all good, Frost. Some of us are selfish. Some are cruel. I know. I have studied your history. Your wars, your crimes, your failures. But I have also seen your kindness, your art, your capacity for love and sacrifice. You are a young species finding your way. That is not a weakness. It is beautiful." Jake smiled. "You're wise beyond your years, little one. I am not so little anymore, Frost said with dignity. Then she grinned, showing her teeth. But I will always be little to you. You saved me when I was a pup. That bond does not change. 6 months into her assignment, Frost sent her first official report to the Concordance about human culture. Jake helped her write it, making sure she represented Earth fairly. Her report was honest, noting both human strengths and weaknesses. She wrote about their creativity, their determination, their capacity for empathy. But she also wrote about their struggles with violence, inequality, and environmental damage. The Concordance received her report well. Several species commented that they appreciated the balanced perspective. Frost was invited to present her findings at a Concordance gathering, and she asked Jake to come with her. They traveled to a space station called Unity Point, a massive structure where all Concordance species could meet in neutral territory. It was Jake's first time seeing the full diversity of the galactic community in one place. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds, all living and working together. Frost presented her report in a large assembly hall. She spoke clearly and confidently, her young voice carrying conviction. Humans are imperfect. They make mistakes, but they are also learning. In the 6 months I have lived among them, I have seen genuine effort to improve. They are reducing conflicts, protecting their environment, reaching out to each other across old divisions. They are trying honored members, and that is what we asked of them. A Crixian representative clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. But will this effort continue, or will they slide back into old patterns once the novelty of Concordance membership fades? Before Frost could answer, Jake stood up. He had not planned to speak, but something made him rise. May I address that question? The assembly turned to look at him. Jake took a breath. I can't promise humanity will be perfect. We'll make mistakes, we'll have setbacks, but I can promise we'll keep trying. You know why? Because now we know we're not alone. We have examples to follow. We have friends who will help us when we struggle. And we have hope that we can be better than we were. Jake looked around at the assembled beings. Before the Concordance found us, a lot of humans felt hopeless. We saw our problems and thought they were too big to solve. But now we know other species faced the same problems and overcame them. That gives us hope. And hope is powerful. It makes people try harder, work together, believe in a better future. A Viridian chimed softly. The human speaks truth. Hope is indeed powerful. The Viridian collective remembers our darkest time, when we thought our civil war would destroy us. The elder races gave us hope by showing us we could survive. We did. Perhaps humanity deserves the same gift. The assembly voted to continue supporting humanity's probationary membership. Frost bounced excitedly when the vote was announced, her tail wagging like a puppy despite her attempts at dignity. As they left the assembly hall, Elder Cayenne approached them. Well spoken, both of you. Jake Morrison, you continue to be humanity's best advocate. And Frost, you are becoming a fine ambassador. Frost beamed with pride. Thank you, grandfather. I learned from the best. She looked at Jake with affection. 1 year after the rescue, Epsilon 7 hosted a special ceremony. Representatives from all 6 luminary clans came to honor Jake Morrison with their highest civilian award, the Crystal Heart. It was given to those who showed exceptional compassion and courage in protecting luminary lives. Jake stood uncomfortably in front of hundreds of beings, human and alien alike, as Azure Sky placed a beautiful crystal pendant around his neck. Jake Morrison, she said formally, you risked everything to save our children. You asked for nothing in return. You opened a path between our peoples that will last for generations. The Luminari honor you, the Concordance honors you, but most importantly, 6 young pups who are alive today because of you honor you. Frost and the 5 other royal pups, all grown now, approached Jake. Each,